Into an issue that's leaving young people up and down the country in limbo. Around 13,000 students at 145 colleges and universities are graduating, but they don't know what their marks are, or they haven't been able to graduate at all. Staff have been refusing to mark exams and assessments in a long-standing dispute over pay and working conditions. It's members of the University and Colleges Union, that's the UCU. They began their boycott now back in April, and there currently isn't an end in sight. Over half of the members rejected a pay rise of between 5 and 8% that was offered to them. Well, I'm joined now by two people who haven't got their marks. Anna McGovern, an English student who graduated without knowing her final grade, and friend of the show, Frankie Leach, whose work hasn't been marked for her Masters in International Development. Thank you both very much for joining me. Frankie, so you're halfway through your Masters.
Almost finishing, actually.
OK,
yeah.
So what was the kind of communication you had to say you don't actually know what your grades are?
Well, I mean, look, the dispute has been going on since April. I'm a big supporter of the UCU, so I'm not complaining about the dispute that's happening. But the kind of correspondence that we've had from the university has been like, our last modules haven't been marked, so we don't know what those marks are. And crucially, my dissertation, which is due in on September the 1st, isn't yet kind of said that it's going to be marked, and that will mean that potentially I'm not going to graduate next year, or we don't know when we'll graduate. The university hasn't really been able to give much of an update, and that's because the dispute is still going on with UCU, which is the lecturers who are on strike at the moment and doing this marking and assessment boycott, and the university management who are supposed to be negotiating with the UCEA, who are the people who kind of run the pay and pensions of all lecturers and university staff across the UK.
OK, we're going to come back onto you in a second, Frankie. Anna, you're doing your undergraduate degree. You've just graduated, but you don't know how well you did.
Exactly. So in my department, they've predicted about 13 of us have been able to graduate, but over 100 students in my department have not been able to. So this dispute's been going on for a very long time, with the lecturers going in and out of strike. But due to the marking boycott that was declared, many students are missing their final grades. So they might have received some of their grades from some of their modules, and then others are completely missing, whether the university is withholding that information or it simply has not been marked at all. So in my case, I received enough marks back that I could graduate, because the university could say I'd passed, but they couldn't actually tell me what I graduated with.
So what was your graduation like? What do you have to
So
prove
I physically got handed a blank envelope and an apology letter from the university just saying, dear graduate, sorry, you can't, sorry that we don't have your degree classification, and basically stating what the dispute was about.
Okay.
So it was just a completely, just a blank letter that we received, blank envelope. And yeah, that was pretty much all we got.
What did you make of the apology?
I thought it was a complete disgrace to students, because I think, for me personally, I've spent over £40,000 worth of debt for an education that I've not received. Throughout the 3 years that I've been at university, we've been, we had the lockdowns, then we had the lecturers constantly going in and out of strikes. And throughout all of this discourse, students have not had a voice whatsoever. Like, if I was to turn around and go on strike, I would fail, and no one is standing up for the students. The students' voices are simply not being listened to or heard, and the UCU do not care about the students whatsoever.
Frankie, if you were in the same situation as Anna, this was your undergraduate degree, you've finally sort of half graduated, but you don't have anything to prove it. You've got a blank piece of paper and an apology.
Yeah.
Do you think you'd have as much empathy with the people going on strike?
Yeah, I'm a trade unionist. I always have empathy with people who are going on strike. And look, my Masters is important to me. There's jobs that I won't be able to apply for in the future without having classification for Masters. I'm extremely sympathetic. I will challenge you on the point when you said that the UCU doesn't care about students. All of the communications that the UCU have put out is that they are concerned about the quality of education they're able to deliver with the management of the universities, and they know the impact that this is having. My lecturers, for example, are very apologetic about the strikes. They're very sorry. It doesn't solve the issue at hand here. And what I would say is that it's also down to the university management. The UCA needs to get round the table, negotiate with the UCU. There is much to blame for the strike as the UCU.
No, I completely disagree. I think the UCU deliberately targeted hot points for the students throughout the entire
education.
No, exactly. Well, no, I appreciate that, but for example, exam periods, there are also for students who are missing their grades. I know several people who actually wanted to do master courses or teacher training courses. They will actually have to take a year out now because the university is refusing to release their marks, and that is completely selfish. Where is the voice of students throughout any of this? Who is standing up for the students? At the end of the day, the UCU are being incredibly selfish in targeting the students, and we're going into so much debt and getting nothing for it. A piece of paper, it's a complete disgrace.
The UCU have said university bosses have now made it clear they'd rather throw students under the bus rather than settle this dispute. They're refusing to offer staff anything on pay, nor will they redress the punitive deductions many members have suffered for participating in the marking and assessment boycott. This is causing untold harm to our members and to students. So they're saying they're on your side.
Well, I don't think they are on our side. I've not seen any evidence of this whatsoever. And I think the UCU's treatment of students has been absolutely appalling. I personally have had no support throughout my entire degree throughout any of this. I know, many students who go through the exact same thing. And I think for students, we're incredibly fed up because I was one of those students who started in 2020, and I feel like I've not had a university experience whatsoever. I feel like, except for the first year, for example, we literally had an education delivered via video calls, Zoom, PowerPoint presentations that were just repeats from previous years. I feel like I haven't received the education that I've gone in thousands of pounds worth of debt for.
They have been offered a pay rise between 5 to 8%.
Yeah.
Is that enough, Frankie?
Well, this dispute isn't just about pay, it's about pensions, and they haven't come round to the table on pensions. I really hear you, but what I would say is, look, strikes are meant to be disruptive, and this is the University and College Union. It's all about universities. So, of course, they're going to find a pinch point. It's horrible for you, and they will be super sympathetic. I really do sympathise with you. The issue is with strikes, they're always going to impact the people in the public,
at what
right?
cost? Because the students now, if you say that you've got into £40,000 worth
But you say the students as if I'm also not one.
No, I'm understanding that, but you're also doing your master's degree. You've got a job. You're not stuck in a situation where your employer is saying, "Well, can I have your degree classification?" And you say, "Well, I might have a first-class degree, but I don't have the evidence."
But you've just got a new job,
it.
right? And they haven't stopped you from getting that job because you don't have a degree
many other students will not be able to enter certain industries. They won't be able to do teacher training courses, as I said, or master courses because of the universities withholding these marks.
But I think lots of universities have already written to jobs and places where people have got job offers to offer those.
So in my case, I know several people who actually are having to take years out because of that. Yeah. And so what about the students throughout all of this? We're talking about lecturers. Who is standing up for the rights of students? Who is supporting them?
Is any of your anger directed at universities to say, look, pay the people who wanted to do our marking properly, and then you didn't end up in that situation?
So I sympathise with the lecturers. However, I think that at the same time, students need to also have their voices listened to throughout all of this because we've been completely ignored. So my university, for example, we've been offered a £500 refund, which is appalling, quite frankly, because we're in thousands of pounds worth of debt for, again, an education we've not received. I personally will never support the UCU, particularly on a separate point of their treatment over women and Kathleen Stock, all of that happened in 2021 with what they did to her, I think is absolutely appalling. So I'll never support the UCU regardless. However, I just think in terms of the students, someone needs to be standing up for them and their rights. We hear so much about the lecturers and all of this debacle going on. This has been going on for years now, in and out of strikes. Where is the students throughout any of this?